Hey gorgeous, welcome to Aligned Ascension. Frequency attunement, human design, and business energetics. I'm Christy Avis. This is your Aligned Ascension.
I am so excited to talk about this subject because this is something I've been working with my one-on-one clients with, and it's been such an incredible vibe of like stepping into next level power in their businesses, because power is very much related to emotional intelligence. And this is something that a lot of non-emotional authorities, I point to my solar plexus because I am a non-emotional authority as well, can really struggle with in terms of stepping into emotional regulation, right? Because there is a lot in the human design industry that talks about emotions and emotional authorities. And because we are non-emotional authorities, we can kind of get the idea that we are not supposed to feel emotions to the same level as emotional authorities. And I don't know about you, but there's been a lot of conditioning within my life and the lives of people who I know who are non-emotional authorities where it's like, you're too emotional. Why are you emotional? That is a thing that is not actually true. Just because you are a non-emotional authority, hi Agnieszka, just because you are a non-emotional authority does not mean that you do not feel emotions. And it actually means that you feel emotions on a heightened level. Because what happens is you have an undefined solar plexus. So when you are by yourself, you're going to feel pretty emotionally regulated unless you're in your open head centers or kind of spinning around. You're going to feel like, I'm good, I'm fine, right? But when you are around people, what happens is your body is constantly taking in the emotions and energies of others. And when we have an open center, what happens is we bring in these emotions, we bring in the feelings, we bring in all of the things that other people are experiencing, and we amplify it out. So we're not only feeling it, but we're feeling it on an amplified level. And so when you are a non-emotional authority, you're gonna feel emotions, and you're gonna feel emotions on a heightened level, as opposed to what a lot of people think is it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm a non-emotional authority, so something's wrong with me because I feel emotions. Nothing's wrong with you, right? But what we really want to step into is this emotional regulation is how you step into next level power within your business, within the way that you're showing up, because you're not always feeling so within your body, right? And so I'm going to give you a couple of ways that as a non-emotional authority, you can start to lessen the intensity of the things that you're feeling and really move through these emotions in a powerful way. Because when you start to move through these emotions in a powerful way, what we start to prevent is this stickiness in our energy, right? This is something a lot of non-emotional authorities, some of my clients will even go through, where it feels like everything is just kind of bleh and meh, and I feel weird about everything, right? And what happens is it's because there's a bunch of stuff built up in our solar plexus because we're not releasing throughout the day. We're not clearing the energy, because this is a very beautiful center to have defined and undefined, right? Because as non-emotional authorities, what we really are capable of doing is we're capable of holding space for others to feel their emotions. That's really beautiful. That brings in a level of leadership and ability to coach people and ability to be really empathetic to the things that people are feeling. So there's a couple of ways where we can allow that empathy to be a powerful thing that we utilize in our businesses, but also do the clearing so it doesn't build up and we don't just feel meh and bleh. I always said I felt things in such a strong way. Absolutely. We feel things absolutely in a strong way as non-emotional authorities. There's a lot of conditioning around emotions for non-emotional authorities. So I'm going to go into these ways where you can start to really get into a space of powerful emotional processing. Because here's the thing. A lot of non-emotional authorities have conditioning around feeling, right? Because how many times, when you think back to the conditioning that you've had throughout your life, when have you been told, hey, you're being too emotional? Why did you freak out about that? Hey, you feel things too much. Hey, it's not that big of a deal. We have conditioning around emotions just like emotional authorities, right? And so what we can do is, because we feel emotions on such an intense level, is we can get into this space of like, I am not safe to feel my emotions because they feel so intense, because I feel them so deeply in my body, because it feels like such a visceral response, right? Like sometimes when my emotions have built up, I literally feel a bunch of pressure in my heart space, and I literally feel this visceral feeling. So one of the biggest things we have to remember in terms of emotional processing, the first thing I'm going to talk about is the concept of being a screen and not a sponge. I am a screen and not a sponge. Because what happens is when we're around people, even if we're interacting with clients on Voxer, even if we're talking to people online, we're watching people in videos, we are feeling and absorbing emotions, right? And so what can happen is there can be this real fear of confrontation, which can show up in your business as a lack of boundaries. It can show up as fear of confrontation, and then kind of going into a space of almost people pleasing because you're scared to upset people, right? Because you're scared of what those emotions will feel like in your body. So this concept of I am a screen, not a sponge, has been so powerful for me and my clients to really understand emotional regulation in moments of heightened emotion. Right? This is something I talk about. I have a fear of confrontation, right? So I remember there was this one time where I really deeply integrated this. I went to Walmart with one of my friends, and for some reason, there was an employee fighting with a customer. I was like, oh my God, I need to get away from this because I felt it in my body. And I was at one of those Walmarts where they have like the makeup section locked away, so I couldn't like get past them. So I'm just watching them argue, and I'm feeling my body start to freak out, right? I'm like, oh, conflict, right? And I went into a space of screen, not sponge. Because what's the difference, right? Our solar plexus, we're allowed to feel without absorbing. So what this concept of screen, not sponge really is we allow the emotion to flow through us. We are allowed to still feel it. We are going to feel it. There's nothing you can do to be like, oh, not gonna feel that, because it hits us, right? That's how the undefined solar plexus works. And so as I go into screen, not sponge, I allow these emotions to flow through because I'm deeply recognizing and holding the vibration of, these are not mine. These are not mine, so they get to pass. Because what will happen psychologically underneath the surface is sometimes we take responsibility for the emotions and things going on around us. It's a body reaction, right? It's not something we're consciously doing where it's like, oh, I'm taking responsibility for this fight between this Walmart employee and this customer, right? It's this body thing where we go, something's wrong and I have to fix it. That's what it means to be a sponge. That's what it means to be a sponge. So you absorb the emotion and you keep it there. This is something I actually say to myself when someone comes at me with emotions. And this is when I set boundaries in my business. This is when I show up in my business in my power. This is when I trigger somebody with my content. I am a screen, not a sponge. And so that gives me the permission to feel the thing and let it pass through, because oftentimes these emotions are not yours. And what a lot of non-emotional authorities will do is we'll go into a space of like, oh, why do I feel this way? Something's wrong, something's wrong. But when we allow them to pass through and go, oh, this isn't mine, I'm a screen, not a sponge, then we allow the movement of energy. So that's a really, really powerful way for you to step into this like non-responsibility, non-attachment to the things that you're feeling, because you can't just stop yourself from feeling the things around you. This open solar plexus actually is going to absorb the emotions of others. And depending on who you're around, it can actually activate the center for you. So literally, verbally repeating that to yourself, I am a screen, not a sponge, can help you in those moments of heightened emotions, right? And something else with emotional processing is movement. If you have an undefined solar plexus, you should be moving it, right? You should be moving it, moving your body. Because what happens is movement actually allows the energy to be in motion. Because what is emotion? Literally think about it. Emotion, energy in motion. That's literally the definition of emotions based on what Christy thinks. Don't look it up in the Webster Dictionary because it's probably not the case. But energy in motion, it's emotion. So what helps us move the energy is actually moving our bodies, because our solar plexus is in our body, right? And when there's a lot of stagnation in energy, what I've noticed is that my clients are not moving with the intention of release, right? That's a big piece. Hear me when I say that, with the intention of release. I'm a screen, not a sponge, is simply bringing the concept to our awareness. Absolutely. Awareness is always the first step, right? Because when we have an awareness that something's not ours, then we don't have to go into this space of going, what's wrong? Where is this emotion coming from? Why am I feeling this way? What do I need to fix, right? Because there's nothing to fix, and then we allow it to flow. So in that movement, what we're really giving ourselves permission to do is to clear. And I have such a deep awareness in this, in my business, and this is something I help my clients with as well, is this really deep awareness of how they are feeling throughout the day. And when they feel that little bit of tension in their body, they move, right? They move, because that allows the energy to be in motion and it doesn't get locked in our bodies, right? And so something I'm doing whenever I have tension arise in my body, I'm doing something like this. And I'm opening my chest and I'm rolling my shoulders back, because it's giving me the opportunity to move this emotion. Right? And so after things have happened that feel emotionally dysregulating, whether I've had a fight with a friend, or I'm feeling some tension about a boundary I just set with a client, or I'm feeling some anxiety about a next level thing that I'm doing in my business, is I will actually move so I don't get those fears, those feelings, the absorption of those emotions stuck in my solar plexus. And within that piece of movement, it really is about asking yourself what you need to move the emotion. Right? And sometimes that movement is something that I bring in and I have my clients bring in when it's subtle. Hear me when I say this. It has to be in that subtle stage of energetics for that movement to just be able to process it out. Right? So when I set a boundary, I'm like, oh, that was no big deal, but I'm feeling a little anxious, I'm moving. Right? And movement can be jumping on my trampoline. That can be in my room, kind of just doing this. It can be a little bit of shaking, right? Because what do animals do when they encounter trauma in the wild? They don't go talk to their coach, right? We're allowed to talk to our coaches about these things. And my clients, I actually encourage them to bring these things to me, because then I am able to help them do what they need to do within their bodies to really process it out and move into power in their businesses. But animals shake. When you see a gazelle get chased and it gets away from the lion, what does it do? It shakes. And that shaking gets this trauma, this feeling, this response out of their body, right? And so that allows us to keep this solar plexus really clean and clear, so we're not falling into these shadow frequencies, the shadow frequencies of holding everybody's emotions, of projecting negative emotions from one situation out onto your business, out onto your conversations, right? Because you have this deep awareness, this shadow frequency of holding yourself responsible for other people's emotions, for other people's responses, pre-predicting conflict, and then going into people pleasing. These are all some of the shadow frequencies of that solar plexus. So as you have this deep awareness throughout the day of like, oh, I'm feeling a little bit of tension, and you do the movement, you're keeping yourself clear for higher frequencies of this solar plexus, which allow you to show up in your power in your business. Now, if something hits you, this last piece, if something hits you really hard, something just like boom, blindside, something, it feels like a lot, it's a lot of conflict, it's a lot of tension, it's a lot of emotions, I do the movement, but there's a step that I do before that. And this comes down to a deep level of self-trust and power, right? What you want to do is you want to be, I always do this when I'm by myself, because that allows me the most power to tap into what I want, what my desires are, and express freely, right? But this is how I'm able to move through these power portals really, really quickly and then show up in my power in my business, because my business does require me to be in my power. And so what I do is I go into this space and I ask myself, hands on heart, okay, what am I feeling right now? Because sometimes we need to acknowledge the emotions. Because what I notice oftentimes is that non-emotional authorities who have a fear of emotion go into a space of, I'm afraid to look at this and process it and feel it because it feels like too much. It feels like I'm gonna die when I feel this emotion, right? But that's not actually the case, right? And when you start to build that level of self-trust with yourself, where you give yourself the space and time to go, okay, hands on heart, what am I feeling? Okay, I am feeling this. And we're able to bring some words to it. We don't have to go into why, right? We don't have to go into why. But what we want to do is we want to feel the emotion, and then we want to say, what is this emotion trying to tell me? That's the question you ask. And sometimes the emotion isn't even about the thing that hit you in your business, in your life, in your relationships, right? Sometimes it's not about the thing. It's about an underlying belief. Oftentimes, when my clients go into this work and something hits them, they go into this space and they go, what is this emotion trying to tell me? That I am unsafe. That this is all going to come crashing down. Those are some of the core, deep beliefs that typically come up, right? And then, okay, I see you, I feel you. We allow ourselves to feel it because that keeps us from locking it in the body. When we go, ooh, not looking at that, we do this emotional thing where we don't allow ourselves to let the energy be emotion. When we feel, the energy is emotion. So we get into a space of really acknowledging it, really feeling it, asking it what the deeper meaning is. And then the last thing I always ask my body, and I trust what comes through. You have to trust what comes through. I'm not going to tell you the specific thing that you need to do to process it. Your body knows. Your body always knows, and it will always tell you. So I will ask myself, okay, amazing. So I'm feeling a lack of safety. Okay, what do you need to move this body? That's what you ask yourself. And the answer will come through. Whether that is crying, punching a pillow, shaking, dancing, screaming into a pillow. Those things are healthy, right? A lot of people don't talk about emotional processing and emotional regulation within the coaching industry because it's like screaming into a pillow and punching a pillow doesn't sound professional, but it is, right? We do it behind closed doors so we're able to show up in our power and we're not stuck in this meh, bleh feeling, right? Trust what comes through when you ask your body what it needs to process it. And just because it doesn't process in the first 3 minutes of you screaming into a pillow does not mean it's not working. So what you do is you do it until you feel the release. Sometimes that's like 5-10 minutes. But trust that the energy is moving. That's a big piece of this. Trust that the energy is releasing. Trust the way you feel. Trust the answers that come through. Because these 3 pieces of emotional processing are really going to help you stay in a next level power in terms of your emotions throughout the day, in your business, in your relationships. Because I don't want you guys to have the idea that just because being a non-emotional authority means you don't feel emotions. You feel emotions. You feel emotions a lot. They're amplified. But using these processes of I am a screen, not a sponge, moving when it feels subtle, and really going into it when it feels severe and asking yourself what this feeling is, what it's trying to tell you, and what it needs to be released, and really honoring and following that is going to give you so much clarity and power when it comes to moving through your emotions. This will get you out of that space of going into people pleasing. Because what you will do is you will understand that no matter what happens emotionally, you can handle it. And when you get into that level of power and you show up in your business from that level of power, suddenly all the things that you were afraid of that's blocking you from this next level income, next level clients, next level boundaries, Those things you trust in yourself to handle them because you know how to process emotions. This work is so freaking powerful, and it is the foundation of what I do with my non-emotional authorities and my emotional authorities. I do something completely different with them. This has been such an incredible and powerful conversation on being a non-emotional authority and processing your emotions. So definitely do these things if you're a non-emotional and feel that clarity within your undefined solar plexus. Love you guys so, so much. Thank you so much for being here.